Um, Hello and welcome to the 7th in our series of GSMA Showcase live events. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules and for joining us here today. I'm very pleased to say we have representatives from across the world, from Coventry to Vienna to the US and London and beyond for today's session. For those who don't know me, my name is Conor Dempsey from GSMA Services, and my primary role is to ensure our customers, partners, and members are leveraging the full suite of services available to help the mobile industry as a whole. We have a great session ahead of us, the aim of which is to help you, your team, your company to plan more effectively, reduce costs, increase revenue, and improve customer experiences. We have some great speakers who are going to talk about this and explain the services available to help you achieve your goals, and hear directly from our partners on how they provide value to their customers by leveraging device identification and verification across multiple real-life use cases. As a result, we have an action-packed agenda with each session lasting approximately 10 minutes. The first session is from Pablo from GSMA Intelligence, who's going to discuss key industry trends on devices, particularly around 5G and IoT and the impact of these trends. Then we have not one, but two GSMA product directors. We have Tyler and Jason, who are going to talk through the tools available to help you extract this value. After which, I'm delighted to say we have two partners who should provide real-life examples of how they are currently leveraging these services. Firstly, we have Ibitsam, the co-founder of Invigo, to explain how Invigo are helping operators worldwide with device management, fraud management, and SIM management. Last but no means least, we have Harvey, the Global Director for Black Belt Smart Defence, who shall explain how their solutions are helping large companies with their trade-in programs. At the end, we have a Q&A session where we'll try to address and answer as many questions as possible. Just to make you aware, this session is being recorded and we will share all the content after this session. So I would like to ask you not to be shy, put all your questions in the right-hand column in the chat and we will address them at the end. So please, for the next 55 minutes, try to resist the temptation to do your emails, use your phone, or do your shopping. And please do listen, do get involved, and do ask questions. With that, I would like to hand over to Pablo from GSMA Intelligence. Pablo, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Conor. Hello, everyone. Glad to connect with all of you. I'm Pablo Jacopino, Head of Research at GSMA Intelligence. GSMA Intelligence is the research and consulting organization within the GSMA. So the device ecosystem is evolving faster than ever before. Over the next 10 minutes, we will be looking together at some of the key trends shaping the device ecosystem, with a special focus on 5G devices and IoT devices. So what are the trends that we see in the market? There are many trends happening. All of them are important. So on one side, we see a proliferation of connected devices. And I'm talking about connected devices for consumer as well as enterprise use cases. There is a growing and diverse range of devices, and this is accelerating adoption of digital services and content, and I will touch on this point later on. Then we have new device technologies and new requirements for devices and networks. Here I'm talking about 5G, including standalone 5G, eSIM and integrated SIM, satellite capabilities, AI capabilities, voice over LTE, security identity, so many new technologies. And then importantly, there are new trends shaping the consumer behavior. Smartphones are now a central platform for other devices and for digital services. There is a shift to digital, and consumers want to be always connected using multiple devices with multi-device subscription. So this means that against the backdrop of this device evolution, device identification and verification is more important than ever before. Next slide, please. When we think about devices, broadly, we have two categories. Traditional mobile devices, mostly smartphones, handsets, tablets, and then IoT. So when it comes to traditional mobile devices, what we see is that over the next 8 years, there will be 17% growth in the number of mobile connections. That means 1.4 billion new mobile connections entering the market globally. And this means new devices on top of the device replacement. So 1.4 billion is a big number. The other trend that we see is that 5G has now become mainstream. There was a big milestone that the industry reached at the end of 2022, 1 billion 5G connections. We expect this number to reach 1.5 billion by the end of 2023, and then more than 5 billion by 2030. And in some of the leading markets, 5G will become the main network technology between 2023 and 2024. I'm talking about South Korea, US, Australia, and many other markets. Next slide, please. IoT is also an important device ecosystem. There is an explosion of connections, an explosion of devices. According to our forecast, the number of IoT connections globally will grow threefold between 2020 and 2030. That means that by the end of 2030, there will be 37 billion IoT connections globally. And this includes consumer IoT devices as well as enterprise IoT devices. Within the consumer space, smart home is driving growth. Wearables also seeing huge growth. Within enterprise, there are different use cases driving growth, including manufacturing, smart cities, automotive, and 70% of the IoT connections growth will come from enterprise. Of this 37 billion IoT connections, more than 5 billion will use cellular connectivity, whether it's 3G, 4G, 5G, or low power wide area networks. So big explosion in the IoT market, which means that there is a demand for new IoT devices. Next slide, please. One of the things that we do in our research, going back to the smartphone as the dominant mobile device, we ask consumers, we do a survey across major countries, and we ask consumers what are the criteria, the factors driving their choice of the next smartphone. So we ask, are you going to replace your smartphone over the next few years? Yes, no. If yes, what factors you pay attention to the most? And when we think about this, what we see is that on one side, fundamental things like battery life, durability of smartphones, camera quality are still very, very important for consumers. However, security is becoming now top of the agenda. Security is the number 3 in terms of the criteria that consumers pay attention to when buying their next smartphone. So security is number 3, which means that 90% of consumers consider security very important or somewhat important. And when I say security, this means security of data, security of device, security of device identification and verification, security of network connectivity. It's also interesting to see that the security is an important criteria for all age groups. from younger generations to older generations. And this makes sense because all of us make great use of smartphones for sharing personal or sensitive data, for example, healthcare data or financial information. Or we use smartphones in order to connect on social media. We use smartphones in order to have access to digital services, digital entertainment. So what we see is that security is now top of the agenda for consumers, and there is a growing importance of privacy, security, and data protection. Going back to the point about smartphones are now the central platform for consuming digital services and entertainment. If we move to next slide, I will be able to elaborate a little bit more on this point. So smartphones, we use smartphones for digital services, lifestyle services, government-related services, healthcare. And our research shows that this happens across all age groups, and people use smartphones for all these activities. So that means that the value for consumers is shifting from the hardware to the services that we use on smartphones. And that means that, again, device identification and verification is more important than ever before. Another important point is that 5G is also raising the bar. When we segment our consumer survey and we compare the behavior of 5G users with the behavior of 4G users, we see that the 5G users show higher interest in using digital services, digital entertainment, but also higher interest in bundling mobile connectivity with wearables, bundling mobile connectivity with video services or gaming services or smart home services. So all this means that smartphones are really the central platform for anything. Services, but also for other devices, which means that we can connect smartphones with wearables, with smart TVs. So there is a really important role for smartphones to drive the digital economy. And that means that device identification and verification is super important. That was my final slide. If you want to know more about GSMA Intelligence, you can reach out to us at info@gsmaintelligence.com, and I will be available for any questions you may have later on during this webinar. And with that, I'll leave the floor to Tyler for the next presentation.
Thanks, Pablo. Always great to have you on and give an insight into where we are in the market. And how much value we get out of GSMA internally and also externally. So real quick, introduce myself. I'm Tyler Smith, product director based in Atlanta, and I look after all of our device information services. And really today what we wanted to do and showcase was kind of to the title of the identification and verification value that end users can get by using our services and how some of our partners are using that services. So how do GSMA and our services enable users to accurately and reliably identify and verify a mobile device? So first we break it down, we look at, identify and verify seems pretty much to be the same thing. However, we see them as two different tasks that complement one another. So identifying and verification of a mobile device means to establish or indicate what something is. Whereas when you look at verifying a device, it's to make sure or demonstrate that something is true, accurate, or justified. So examples of that is that, by utilizing various services that GSMA offers, such as our device check, device registry, our device database, and device map services, end users are able to get this valuable information to enable proper identification and verification. So for example, a user can leverage a device database to identify that a device is a mobile-enabled tablet, and it has a valid tag that's been assigned to it. So it's okay in that aspect. You've been able to identify it. But then you can take that a step further with another one of our services, GSMA Device Map, where you can utilize the additional details there to determine that, okay, this is a tablet, we knew that, but its actual intended use is being used in an automobile as kind of an infotainment and management system inside of an automobile. Kind of taking it a step further and digging further down into the data, you can then utilize our device check service to query that device's IMEI and further understand its status as it relates to has it been reported lost or stolen, and making sure that device is in good shape to transact with. Next slide. Okay, so why is it important to do these things and to accurately and reliably identify and or verify a mobile device? So you want to validate a device. The information that you have or have been provided is correct. You don't want to be doing business or allowing a particular device on a network or to access an application, for example, if that's not a valid device, meaning that device has not been assigned a legitimate tag. You want to make sure the devices are compliant with these global standards. The IMEI and the tag, they're in our database. The IMEI has not been reported as lost or stolen, and that helps you avoid handling devices that could be included in a criminal activity. You also want to avoid these devices by checking the device registry or device check services to make sure that you don't want to resell or be involved in that process of something being blocked by a different operator, or it's been blocked or reported lost or stolen by that end user. Another thing for the importance and accuracy of data is that your end and back end and various use cases of the services enable faster identification and results to address things such as network issues. There may be a device on your network that's causing problems, and being able to quickly identify what that device is and also what is its primary purpose can help determine what action you should take to help better manage your network. Next slide. So what I'd like to do now is really just give a high-level overview of two of the services previously mentioned, which are in our device information services portfolio, and these are the device database and GSMA device map. So GSMA device map is the global source for device details, mobile device details, and we obtain and store this data directly from the device manufacturers at the point of TAC allocation. All of the devices that have the capability to connect to a mobile network are required to obtain a TAC or a type allocation code from the GSMA. The GSMA was appointed the Global Decimal Administrator many years ago, so we also carry out this process to allocate and assign TAC codes to device manufacturers so that they are able to create unique IMEIs as required by global industry standards. So within device database, we have about 20 device attributes, and that includes over 10,000 different device models launched every year. Then we have this information going back to the beginning of time as it relates to GSM technologies. This is a very, very large database with information that includes such things as the device make, the model and marketing name, the brand name, the network frequencies that are supported by that device, and in addition also, now that we're moving to more high-tech, next generation of 5G, 4G LTE, we're also including the performance information around those network types that are supported. So the MIMO information and the layers, the uplink and downlink speeds. And then there's also things in there about the device, what is the device, a mobile phone, a tablet, what is the operating system, and other tidbits of things such as, does it support NFC? And then moving to the right-hand side of the screen, we have GSMA device map. GSMA device map takes all the data included in GSMA device database, and then it ends up resulting in over 150 curated device attributes for every single device in the database. Device map also normalizes the TAC data, meaning that it can group together various ranges of TAC, of all which fall under the same model. So for example, if you've got a bunch of models, they can all have different TAC because only one TAC is able to generate 1 million unique IMEIs. So you can have a lot of models or one model under a bunch of different TAC. So you can have 45 TAC that all have the same device model name and all have the same characteristics. But sometimes there are differences and there are similarities in those models. And using device map enables you to better segment that data to showcase that. Additionally, device map also enables end users to more accurately identify the primary hardware type or the purpose of a device. For an example, this includes specifically around IoT and the classification of IoT devices. We segment this out into identifying, an enabler, an endpoint, and a gateway as it relates to IoT. We also provide greater detail in device map. For example, to state that a device is, a bicycle lock, right? And you'd see that it's an IoT endpoint, and then you could also look and see what's the primary hardware type or the purpose of this device, and it would indicate, it's a bicycle lock. Whereas in the TAC data, it might only tell you that it's a modem or a module in an IoT device. Obviously, I don't have the time today to take you through all of the intricacies of device map and all the value props and attributes that are included. However, a few of the other ones I would like to note are that the chipset that's included in a device, is the device touchscreen or not? What are the HTTP protocols of a device? And also the ability to indicate the highest generation of mobile network frequencies that are supported. Being able to quickly determine if it supports 5G standalone or non-standalone are all items that have come out, more frequently or more recently, not frequently, over the past 18 months. So if you're interested in any of this data, please do let us know. Our team will be happy to share additional details. We're able to provide data samples and examples to you as well of how this data can be used and also how you can use this data in a visual perspective for easier understanding. Again, I want to thank you all for your time today. I will now pass this over to my colleague, Jason.
Hi there, Jason Smith, based in Atlanta. I'm the Senior Director of our Device Check platforms, which also includes a device registry service. Tyler has touched on some of those services already, and it shows how they are really interconnected in identifying, hey, what is this device? What can I do with it? The device registry and the device check services really focus on, hey, is there anything that I can't do with this device or shouldn't do? Many of you are very familiar with the block list, the IMEI block list. That really resides in this device registry that has been around for a long, long time, operating in 42 countries, protecting over 1 billion users. And that's just helped, for the most part, it's 99% a device has been reported as lost or stolen, and that information is exchanged. Next, please. Over time, this information, it's pretty obvious that this information needed to be shared with the rest of the ecosystem to avoid these devices not just blocked. And the level of blocking that's taking place in the industry has grown exponentially. So not just cellular network blocking, but block the trade, block the sale, block insurance, block high value applications. And that's done through our device check platform, which allows third parties to query this information to get that status information. What can I do? What shouldn't I do with this? We have both end users that are insurers, recyclers, traders, government organizations, law enforcement organizations, but we also have authorized resellers. And those organizations help get more information, more tools, more applications, and extend that to the rest of the ecosystem. So we actually have well over 250 organizations in 50 countries querying this information all the time. Next, please. You may also have heard or been aware that over the last 2 years, we've seen, this is just the evolution, and I'm going to share with you a roadmap quickly of more information that's coming down the pipe. But we launched a couple of years ago a pilot where more contributors than just network operators could share device status information. So that moved from a pilot to a full launch and is growing well in over 10 countries, nearly 30 different contributors. And those are insurance retailers, distributors, manufacturers, and even MVNOs. For the most part, these are entities that own devices themselves and suffer losses, and they're able to report that information directly into the ecosystem. So all of this ecosystem is continuing to grow. It also includes, in some of these services, include some of the device characteristics, helping you verify and identify the device. We've got some really new things coming down the pipe. Next slide, please, that I'll share with you that help further identify and verify. So first of all, anytime someone puts an IMEI on the block list, there's a reason. It's generally not shared with even our commercial users and the resellers. And that was changed into the policies. And so now that information is available to you. Right now it's on the web, but in the next literally weeks, we will be rolling out so that our key APIs that are used by our authorized resellers and even some of our other stakeholders have access to the reason. So you go, well, wait a minute, I thought it was just lost or stolen. No, there are a lot of other reasons. Fraudulently obtained, which is growing. It started in New Zealand. There's court-ordered blocking. There is broken or faulty, which in some cases can be used by insurers to flag a device, even while it's being returned, and then it's repaired, and then you take it off the list. And then we have known duplicated IMEIs. I know that's something that'll pop up later and is a different problem in different markets around the world, but we are raising the visibility of even capturing that information to help you avoid these counterfeit devices. So this information will be shared. So when someone looks at the history of a device, they'll see not only who did it, when they flagged it, and why did they flag that. Next. Related to that, we're looking at collecting some additional information about devices that are not just the traditional lost or stolen or the block list cases. There's increasingly an appetite to help. We have this great platform I refer to as a publishing platform where we can publish this information so that you can verify a device. We have a great publishing platform, and there's more information that needs to be shared. We have device owners that are wanting to say, hey, wait a minute, I'm shipping this device. It really shouldn't be traded right now. I am insuring this device. I am financing this device. We want to publish that information so that if anybody's helping to evaluate it, they'll at least understand that there's some type of an encumbrance. So right now we are assessing the demand and capacity and looking to try to launch that potentially late second quarter or early third quarter. Next, please. Last on the roadmap is eSIM. What's going on with eSIM? Well, operators have come to us and they've said, hey, we need help. We've got network fraud that's occurring, not device fraud, separate topic, but network fraud, subscription fraud, calling high risk numbers, and they're using eSIMs to do this, and they're changing the other identifiers. In some cases an IMEI or multiple IMEIs that they'll use that eSIM with. In other cases, they're just swapping the eSIM itself and getting multiple subscriptions, but they're all tied to that eSIM identifier, and they're looking to exchange this information and flag it due to fraud. So that is something that we are working diligently with our fraud and security group. And interestingly, or combined with that, they've said, hey, we always have the TAC. So this whole make and model, now you start to get to even more verification and identification of devices with eSIM identifiers, TAC, in some cases about a third to a half, depending on who you ask. They also have the IMEI that comes with that. So now you start getting a pairing of an eSIM identifier and an IMEI, and overall just improves your confidence in the device that you're dealing with. So device status information combined with device type information really provides a robust ecosystem that we work with many stakeholders. and looking to expand it. A great example of that would be in Vigo, and I'll turn it over to them now.
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Ibtissam Ajjar. I'm one of the co-founders of Invigo. So Invigo is a software solution service provider for mobile operators, mainly specialized in remote device and SIM and eSIM management. So we provide device management, fraud management, and SIM and eSIM management solutions to mobile operators all over the world. We've been here since 2004, and since then we have detected more than 1 billion different mobile devices and helped configure more than 500 million devices. The device identification and device verification play a very important role for our device management and fraud management product. That's why the GSMA device database has been really key to the development of our products. Next, please. So first of all, for mobile operators, we offer device management solutions. So these solutions mainly help operators configure mobile phones on their network. So how does this happen? So first of all, we integrate with the core network, 5G, 4G, or even legacy core networks of mobile operators to detect the subscriber's triplets. So the identifier of the subscriber, the MC and the MSISDN, and also the identifier of the device used by the subscriber, the INEI. Once we have these triplets, we can know what kind of device the subscriber is holding, based mainly on the information that we get from the GSMA device database. So we know the device brand and model, and also the device characteristics. With this information, we're able to send the right device configuration over the air to this device. We're able to provide a rich set of statistics and reports that the mobile operator can use to make better informed network investment decisions. And also the operator can propose device-based marketing bundles and offers, as we will see later. So I will talk a bit more in details about these different use cases in the coming slides. Next, please. So the first use case is mainly detecting the device and sending the proper configuration for this device. So as you can see, based on the information we get from the GSMA device database, we're able to detect the device used by each subscriber. So, and then we provide the customer care of the operator with a web interface providing the image of this device and a lot of characteristics. So here you can only see maybe 10 of them, but we have more than 100 different characteristics for each device. And also it enables the customer care to send either automatically upon detection or also upon request the proper over-the-air configuration to enable different data services on this mobile phone. So it could be a simple APN, it could be some like configuration for MMS, for email, for Wi-Fi, for several data services. Next, please. And then, because you're able to detect the device brand and model and characteristics for each subscriber registered on the mobile network, we're able to provide mobile operators with a very advanced device reporting tool. So, and this is really very important and very crucial for mobile operators. So they can know, for example, the penetration rate of different technologies on their network. How many 5G devices, how many eSIM-enabled devices, how many VoLTE devices, IoT devices. They can also know, for example, how many subscribers are changing from a Samsung phone to an iPhone, or what's the percentage of Huawei devices on their network, and so on. And this will help them negotiate maybe better deals with device manufacturers. And most importantly, it allows them, for example, to decide what kind of technology to invest. So is this really the right time to invest in 5G infrastructure in this area or not yet? So yeah, this is, and then now, so this was mainly for the technical team, but also the marketing team at operators can use this information to propose device-based promotions and offers. So this, for example, they can say whenever a subscriber changes to a Samsung device, they have now a deal with Samsung, he can have access to a preferential data rate. Or they can say, for example, we are proposing SIM cards, special SIM cards, but only for IoT devices. So whenever this SIM card is detected in an IoT device, it's okay. And if it's detected in any other device, it's blocked. So this is really very important for mobile operators. Next, please. So As you have seen, I have talked how device verification and device identifications helps mobile operators through the use of the device management platform. But it can also help law enforcement and telecom regulators in fighting different forms of device fraud. So here I will present the different forms of device fraud that we are familiar with. So first of all, you have devices that are substandard or counterfeit and that have illegitimate IMEIs. So the tag was not allocated by the GSMA for this device. You have the problem also of stolen devices, device theft, a very common also problem worldwide. And then in some specific markets, you have the problem of illegally imported devices. So maybe the IMEI of the device is legal, everything is legitimate. However, no taxes and no custom duties were paid on this device. So these devices were illegally smuggled. And as you know, usually the IMEI of the device should be unique. So it should uniquely identify this device. But in some markets and in some cases, we have seen the same IMEI duplicated and replicated across several devices. And this can really be a concern because these devices might be involved in criminal activities and pose a security risk. And we also have seen other forms of devices that are fraudulent, which are devices changing IMEIs regularly. So usually the IMEI should be the same, should never change. But in some cases, we've seen devices changing IMEIs. This is mainly the case of SIM boxes that we have seen in some markets in Africa that are used to illegally terminate international mobile calls. Next, please. So these different forms of device fraud are really a problem for everyone. So for the law enforcement agency, they are really they pose a security risk because in many cases these devices with duplicate IMEIs are used for criminal acts. Then also you have the problem of mobile device theft, which is also a problem for security agencies. And also for the government, you have the problem of lost public revenues whenever you have illegally imported devices, so lost taxes, lost custom revenues. From the consumer point of view, these devices usually constitute a higher health and environmental risk because usually they have a higher power emissions, they have a higher risk of battery explosion, they might be using hazardous substances, and in general they have lower quality of service because they don't go through any kind of quality control and type 1 approval process. Next, please. So how device identification and device verification can help law enforcement fight different forms of device fraud. So first of all, as we said, we start with the device identification. We can map the IMEI of the device to the specific device brand and model. So maybe we're able to do that. And if the device has an illegal, fake or invalid IMEI, we're not able to do that. So this is the first step. And then the second step, if the device passes this first step, device identification alone is not enough. We need to make sure that this is really the right device. So this is the step of device verification. So we compare the characteristics of the device to whatever we have detected on the mobile network. So just to be to give you an example where we have a failed verification step, we have seen in some cases a device that was detected with the IMEI corresponding to a legacy phone, a very old 2G or 3G phone, while this device was detected on the 5G core network of the mobile operator. So here we know that something is wrong because this device cannot be at the same time a 2G device only at the same time connecting to the 5G core network. So we know that this is a fraudulent device. And why would that happen? Because in some cases, for example, because usually the custom duties and the taxes are a percentage of the value of the device. So in some cases, they change the IMEI of the device to make it seem as if it's an old phone, so they pay less taxes instead of paying the taxes on the latest iPhone or the latest Samsung. So once we detect any of these forms of device fraud, we're able here to help. How? So for the operator, we install usually what we call an equipment identity register, an EIR, to block these fraudulent devices. And this EIR is usually can be integrated with a central countrywide EIR that's usually managed either by the law enforcement agencies or by the telecom regulator. Thank you again for your attention. And now I will pass the mic to Harvey from Black Belt Defense.
Hi, thank you. Yes, my name's Harvey Garche. I'm the Global Director of Black Belt Smartphone Defense. I'm going to give you a few customer journeys where we use the GSMA device info and data to do transactions for trade-ins. So basically, first scenario is our warehousing software, where you can actually connect multiple phones at the same time to our software, and it will take the IMEI information from the device, and up to 50 at a time. It will do the device info validation. It will check for lost and stolen, etc. And that information is immediately passed on through the systems and manages various different workflows. Next slide, please. Okay. One of our systems is the Vodafone trading system in Ireland. So this is a typical scenario where our platform, we would put in the IMEI number, and it will do validations against for device locks, device stolens. It will cross-check with the IMEI against various other services which have been mentioned earlier in this presentation, such as leasing data, rented data, and this, if any of these flags appear, this will stop the device from being traded in and going to an expensive process where, if it's flagged later down the line, the customer may have taken a new phone by now as well, or may have been paid out for the trade-in. So the second scenario in this is also the IMEI number helps our apps do the validation. So our app will validate what model it is, and the IMEI number, which has been inserted into the portal, will also do the validation. So there's a double validation in place, and this then makes sure that the right phone is being tested on the actual platform. Next slide, please. Then we have another scenario with retail stores such as cash converters. This is where they're predominantly paying for the trade-ins over the counter. So it means that the checks and balances have to be very accurate, because once the customer is paid and left the store, it's always too late to try to go back on time and correct things. So here the GSMA data is very, very important, especially around device block and device check. We also use the GSMA info to do a validation against potential fake phones. So for example, a cloned phone may have an Android software on there. However, it may be cloned with a Apple iOS IMEI. So when you plug this into our software, we recognize the hardware as being Android and the IMEI as being as Apple, and then we can raise this as a flag as well for potential fake phone. Also, in retail stores, we issue data erasure and testing certificates back to customers to show that everything's been cleaned. Again, we pull that information not only from the device, but we validate it with GSMA. Next slide, please. And last one is another big retailer in the UK, Currys PC World. They use our data erasure software, which is plugged into the GSMA device check for lost and stolen. Thousands and thousands of phones to be wiped on a daily basis through this process. So again, using the GSMA API to do these checks in bulk is absolutely crucial to the process and making sure the process works seamlessly. Thank you. That's all from me.
Brilliant. Thank you, Harvey. Firstly, what I would like to do is actually thank our speakers for it. So thank you, Pablo, Jason, Tyler, Ibitsim, and Harvey. As anyone who's ever done one of these will realize, it takes preparation and work, and it's actually really good to hear firsthand directly from our partners about real life examples of how they're leveraging that data, and then also setting the context from Pablo and also Tyler and Jason talking about solutions available to make these things happen. Good thing is we've got lots of questions. What I'll probably do is select a few and then we can progress on there for the next few minutes. So let's go to you, Pablo, first. We had a question about in relation to what are the trends currently seen in eSIM for consumer devices. Can you touch upon that at all?
Sure, Connor. So I think Jason already talked about what is happening with the eSIM, USCC in terms of identifier, fraud, onboarding perspective. So I can share some insights into the market trends that we see. So in terms of eSIM devices, eSIM is now mainstream in flagship smartphones. The vast majority of the premium smartphones have eSIM and 5G technology. From a service perspective, what we see is that since the introduction of the eSIM-only iPhone in the US in September, there has been an acceleration of eSIM deployments and commercial launches by operators and MVNOs. And during Mobile Congress, I will share more insights about this. From a consumer perspective, what we see is that the consumer awareness of eSIM is growing. We do a survey, and in some markets, half of consumers already know what eSIM is. However, adoption is still low. Low single digit, which means that in 2023, there will be more focus on turning growing awareness into adoption.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pablo. And actually, just to continue on that, we had a question from Hassan from Vodafone. Could you put a spot on soft SIM as well? Do you see any potential in this direction, or the real risks of prevent adoption of software SIM? Any thoughts on that at all, or comments? Pablo?
Is that for me?
Yeah.
Okay, so soft SIM is not defined, so we don't look much at soft SIM because obviously we focus on hardware SIM because it's the only way to make sure that we meet the criteria in terms of security. So we don't cover soft SIM, and I think there is a general consensus in the industry is that soft SIM is not fit for purpose for security.
Okay, so maybe one to watch for the future. Thank you for that, Pablo. I'm going to combine a couple of questions for you, Tyler, if that's okay. Question one is, how does the information device map better enable us to verify IoT and machine-to-machine devices on a network?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So with the expansion of IoT, to Pablo's point, and machine-to-machine and things like that are running on mobile networks now and to expand exponentially over the next 5 to 10 years, we went ahead and through our device map solution are able to, because the IoT producers and enterprise-grade solutions that are being offered are typically buying off-the-shelf modems or modules produced by QuickTel, for example, or companies like that. So in device database, you just see that it's a modem or module. But then when we move to device map, we dig into that data. We're able to see that data and get more information, and then declare that device is an IoT device. And then further to that, saying, okay, this is an IoT device, and it's not just generally an IoT device. It's a gateway enabling other IoT devices, or it's a enabler allowing connectivity, or it's the actual endpoint device. And then further into that, in device map, you're also able to dig in and see what is the primary hardware or device type for this, outside of just a generic definition of a device being an IoT device or a smartphone or a tablet. You're able to see things such as my example earlier was a bicycle lock, or it could be, something a little more relevant would be, this is a parking meter, right? Or some type of parking meter or smart city type tool. So in device map, you're able to get those additional details and further identify and verify the device. And this helps on the network from mobile network operator's perspective so that you can determine, is the device you're seeing on the network how much bandwidth is it using? Should it be using this much bandwidth or this much frequency space? Is this device, should it be getting preferential treatment because it's a critical service device? It could be some type of security or a smoke alarm or water, public water meter tool or something to that effect.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tyler. And then, as Pablo mentioned, there's 15 billion devices, IoT devices out there already. So if we can differentiate and identify them, that's great. Hopefully, Nick, that helped answer your question in relation to the Quetzal and Cradle point. And then also, Hassan, you had one question around attack. And I believe, Tyler, it would provide information on VoLTE. Is that correct? And such like?
Yeah. So in the device capabilities of TAC, in both device database and device map, you're able to see a listing of the specific frequency bands and also addressing those capabilities that you mentioned in your question, i.e. VoLTE, new radio technology, 5G standalone, non-standalone. Now the SMS over IP and SMS over NAT, I don't believe that it's included to that level of detail, but you are able to see the performance details. And if you'd like to look at that further, we can sync up and get you sample data of that so you can dig into it further.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tyler. And then just continuing on that, Mark, Mapsa is curious with regards to how would you gain access to the device database?
Yeah, so you can contact us. I'm sure we'll send out some more details about how to do that. But you can reach out to myself or Connor. We can get you to the right folks. But in essence, it's a simple agreement and sign up, go through the use case, determine best usage of your data and how to use it. And just for everyone's edification, we provide device database. It can be provided as often as a daily download. We have the ability for you to set up a curl method to fetch the data automatically. You can have a web account where you just log in and do manual queries. So there's a lot of flexibility in the structure of the service as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tyler. I'm going to go over to the Invigo team. We have a question from Edward Ashby. Invigo also work to send over-the-air 5G configuration and also VoLTE information. Bitsum, do you want to cover that?
Yeah, sure. So our device management solution is also compatible with 5G networks, so we can detect devices connected to both 5G as standalone and 5G in NSA, and we're able to send the right configuration the standard protocols. Concerning VoLTE, so there's different platform for that, which is a device entitlement server that we use to configure and enable voice over LTE and voice over Wi-Fi on devices. And here it's either based on the Apple specification or on the GSMA specification for Android devices. So yeah, everything is covered by our device management or device entitlement services.
Brilliant. And if Edward wanted to get in touch, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, they can just contact us at info@invigo.com.
Brilliant. We'll share all the contact details after the event, should anyone want to explore further. Thank you for that. Also back to you, Bitsum. Question from Mark again. How does this help trans-regional theft of devices? When devices are stolen in Africa and then get used in Europe, for example, where the laws are different. So is it necessary to get governments and law enforcement in this fight together, right?
So here what you have seen is that, so usually the operator have what we call an EIR, and then this EIR, if there's a local one for each operator, and then in some countries there is something at the country level, so that if the device is stolen and is used on another network in the same country, it will be blocked too. And then many operators integrate also with the GSMA IMEI database. So it's a global database for stolen devices. So this allows also to just exchange the information on stolen devices between operators across the globe.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. I think, Hobby, from your side, in terms of cash converters and Vodafone, how long have they been using your service?
Cash converters, up to about 7 years now. Vodafone joined just before lockdown, so I'd say 3-4 years for the trading, but data erasure, etc., for various networks and companies we've been doing since 2012. So it's been for a very long time.
Brilliant. So well established and well trusted.
Yeah.
Thank you, Harvey. I think this is for you, Tyler. In your map, device map, I'm guessing, able to identify changes of IMEIs coming from eSIMs rather than this device itself? That was a question from Federica.
Assuming I understand your question correctly, no. We wouldn't be able to capture that in the device map because all of the information is at attack level in device map and device database.
Brilliant. And then actually to go to Ben's question, what is the advantage of using GSMA device database compared to other data sources in the market?
Yeah, well, I mean, device database, you're getting the information directly from the device manufacturer at the point of TAC allocation, meaning you're getting the data as soon as that manufacturer decides that they're going to be publishing a device, sometimes a little before they actually put the device in the market. So a lot of the data you're going to be able to get will be well after the fact of launch, where people have gone and actually put their hands on it and looked at product specs and are trying to collate data from as many places as possible. So we say that the GSMA device database and device map as well is really the source of truth for device information.
Brilliant. Thank you, Tyler. Any more questions from anybody? You can put it in the chat or reveal yourself and talk to us. It seems like a daunting prospect sometimes, but I'm sure you're real people behind it. That's fine. Well, the good thing is, Edward, how is it possible to identify phone that are, say, eSIM but are not? So I'm guessing differentiating between eSIM devices and those that are not. I think that's back to you, Tyler, correct? Yeah.
So in our, from a network side, I don't know on the network side of things. Obviously, you'd want to look at our device database. Either of the services you can identify it, saying, because we capture from the manufacturers and in all of our data that says, is the device, does it support EUICC or eSIM? Does it support UICC or your standard legacy SIM? And also included in that data is, is it removable or non-removable? Early on in eSIM, there was removable, but obviously that's kind of an oxymoron, for lack of a better term. But yes, you are able to identify a phone to say, all right, is this phone really eSIM enabled?
Brilliant. Conscious time. So before everyone disappears, firstly, I'd like to thank all of our speakers, and also I'd like to thank all of our attendees today. You're busy boys and girls, you've got lots going on, but hopefully you found this session of interest and value. As mentioned before, we will share this recording, we will share the content, we will share the contact details, and also, as you probably know, GSMA Showcase live sessions are a series of webinars to help you understand the market more and the different solutions out there. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. Have a great day. Hopefully see you at MWC or somewhere else, and have a great time. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.